Is it just me, or does anyone else feel like December has its own time zone? It's like one minute you're thinking about pumpkin spice, everything, and then bam, you're suddenly stressing about finding the perfect stocking stuffers.
Oh, you are so not alone there.
Mm.
December really does have this way of sneaking up on us.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just because of the whole holiday rush either.
Okay, so what else is going on then?
Well, let's think about it for a second. If you look at cultures across history, this time of year has always been a big deal, like the natural end of a cycle, right? So it was a time to look back at the harvest. And I mean that both literally for our ancestors, but also kind of metaphorically for us today. It's like it's just ingrained in us to take stock as things wind down.
So like how our ancestors would be celebrating a successful harvest, we're kind of doing the same, but with our like year-end goals and accomplishments instead of crops.
Exactly. And those cultural connections, they run deep. I mean, think about Diwali, for example, which is celebrated around this time in a lot of different cultures. It's a festival of lights, symbolizing new beginnings. And even if you don't personally celebrate Diwali, that whole energy of reflecting and looking ahead to something new, well, it's kind of just in the air this time of year, isn't it?
And that totally brings us to Lestallion's December journal prompts. I think what really struck me when I was reading through them was how they tackle both the good and, well, I guess you could say the not so good parts of the year. They encourage us to celebrate what we've achieved, but then also take a look at the challenges we faced. What do you think makes that combination so powerful, especially in December?
Well, most people, and I'm definitely guilty of this too, we tend to go to one extreme or the other. So either we get caught up in the holiday excitement and kind of brush over the difficult stuff, or we get so bogged down by what didn't work out that we forget to appreciate how far we've actually come.
It's like we only want to read certain chapters of our own story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what Lestallion's doing here, I think, is recognizing that resilience, that ability to bounce back. A lot of times that comes from going through those harder experiences, not just the wins. So it's about acknowledging both the sunny days and the storms and accepting kind of a more complete picture of the journey.
So instead of just like checking things off a to-do list, it's about understanding how all those experiences, good and bad, actually shaped us. I really like that.
Yeah, and I think that's where the real growth happens, right?
100%. And speaking of growth, should we dive into the prompts themselves? Because Lestallion really doesn't mess around 50 prompts. That's enough for practically the whole year, not just December. But it's not even just the quantity that got me, it's how they're all organized. It's like they created this perfectly curated roadmap for self-discovery, but like the December edition.
What's so interesting to me is how Lestallion goes beyond those, typical end-of-year reflection prompts. Not that there's anything wrong with gratitude lists or anything like that, but these categories, they really do seem designed to help you uncover a deeper level of self-awareness.
So we've got categories like December Discoveries, which just the name itself makes it sound super intriguing, right? Like it's all about uncovering those aha moments we might not even realize we had. And then there's your December Emotions, which I'm guessing is all about tapping into that whole emotional intelligence thing.
You got it. And I think that's so important, especially during a month that can feel like an emotional roller coaster sometimes. Because, emotional intelligence really is about being able to understand and manage all those feelings, not just the good ones. And these prompts give us a way to actually do that. It's like taking a good long look at our inner world.
And some of these prompts really do make you think. Like, for example, under the Reflections on Traditions category, there's one that asks, how did December's traditions make you feel connected to others? So it's not just about going through the motions, like baking cookies, because that's what your family always does, but actually thinking about why we do those things and how they affect us.
It's true. Traditions are often packed with meaning and shared history, even if we don't always think about it. And that prompt encourages us to kind of dig into those connections and see how they play into our sense of belonging in community.
Then there's this one prompt from the December growth category that I just love. It asks, what did you do in December that you are most proud of? And what I love about it is it's not just asking about what we achieved, but what we're actually proud of, which feels different, right?
Totally. Pride is something that I think we often overlook, but it's a really powerful feeling because it's connected to our values, to our sense of self-worth. It's like Lestallion is prompting us to move beyond that simple checklist mentality and instead focus on the things that genuinely make us feel good about ourselves, about who we are at our core.
It's that feeling of, yeah, I did that, but it's more than that. It's like I did that and I did it my way, and that feels really good.
Exactly. It's about staying true to yourself, even when things get tough.
Right.
And that kind of reflection, taking the time to really acknowledge that, I think can be incredibly empowering, especially as we move into a new year.
Oh, and speaking of the new year, there's another prompt from the December growth section that really stood out to me. It asks, how will the changes in December help you in the new year? I don't know why, but so many of us, we treat December like it's the finish line. But this prompt, it's like it's reframing it as a bridge to something bigger.
I love that because it's so true. December often turns into this crazy rush to the end,
Yeah.
right? But really, it's also the beginning of what comes next. And just that small shift in perspective can make such a big difference.
It's like instead of hitting the reset button every January, we can actually bring forward everything we've learned and experienced.
Yes, January isn't a blank page. It's just the continuation of our story.
Mm.
And I think that by acknowledging the changes we've made in December, even small ones, we set ourselves up for a new year that's more intentional, more fulfilling.
So we've talked about how December is this time for reflection, right? For looking back at what went well and maybe what we want to do a little differently next time. And we talked about how those journal prompts from Lestallion, they can help us sort through all of that in a way that feels really insightful. But there's one category we haven't gotten to yet, and honestly, it's my favorite.
You must be talking about planning for future Decembers. That's where things get really interesting.
Right. It's like most journaling prompts, they're all about the past, but this is different. Lestallion is challenging us to look ahead, and not just in that superficial, what are your resolutions for next year kind of way either.
Exactly. It's about creating a vision for the kind of December we actually want to have, not just next year, but in the years to come. And that takes some real thought. It's not about just wishing for a stress-free holiday or the perfect Instagram moment.
So less about the specifics and more about the overall feeling, the vibe.
Exactly. It's about figuring out what really matters to us, what we want this time of year to feel like deep down,
Yeah.
and then, okay, how do we actually make that happen? How do we make it real?
Okay, so I gotta know, which prompt from this section is your favorite? Which one really made you stop and think?
Well, get ready, because it's a good one.
Yeah.
Ready. Here it is. How do you envision your ideal December day?
Ooh, that's good.
Right. And what I love about this is that it doesn't let you get away with just vague ideas.
Yeah.
It's about getting specific. Like, what does that day actually look, feel, smell like? Who are you with? What are you doing? How does it make you feel?
It's true what they say. A goal without a plan is just a wish. And this prompt, it really pushes you to move past just wishing and hoping for things to be different. It's like, okay, let's actually map this out. Let's get clear on what we want and how to make it a reality.
And, it's amazing how this all connects back to what we were talking about before. Those meaningful traditions, that feeling of pride in our own growth, remembering that the things we do, they affect the people around us too. All of that is woven into this one powerful question.
It really goes to show that sometimes all it takes is one really good question to get us thinking differently. And I don't know about you, but this whole conversation has me looking at December in a whole new light.
Me too. It's a good reminder that we have more power than we think, even during the busiest time of year. We get to choose how we experience it.
And that is a wrap on another deep dive. Listeners, I hope this episode inspired you to grab your favorite journal and a cozy blanket and really dig into what makes December meaningful for you. We'll see you next time.